Reverse 1999 is a gacha game on PC and mobile created by Bluepock. Now that name probably isn't familiar to you, but they were the creators of Reverse 1999, and that's it. Yep, this is their first game, evidently. So naturally, they got a lot to prove, and the question is, does Reverse 1999 do it? Is it, as the Twitch kids say, goated with the sauce, or is it just gonna fade away and be remembered for having a waifu that's body is 3 TVs stacked up upon one another? Now, I know that may sound whack as hell, but trust, don't worry, the designs get weirder. Half of them just make me wonder how and quite frankly why the developers decided to cook them. But don't get it twisted, I'm glad as hell they cooked these designs. I can't say in full certainty that I've held the desire to play as a fragment of a mirror named Door, but at the same time, I'm kinda glad I can. The designs feel as though they were created in some sort of dreamscape. Like, no way you're gonna tell me a table full of cognizant people actually approved the design of a fake horse that ran away from the nearest merry-go-round to be a unit. They were off in dreamland while creating this, and I don't just mean that as a joke. I mean that to say it's very obvious to see all the passion they put into this game. And to show that, let's talk about the story. So in the prime year of 1999, I mean of course it is, on New Year's Eve of that year, right before the 2000s begin, a storm happened. Now, the thing with the storm is, it wasn't normal. There wasn't really any rain dropping downwards on the ground. Instead, it went upwards and time reversed. And when that happened, to put it in the most angelic way possible, everyone outside fucking died, or, well, to put it more specifically, it was like they were never born. And from there, the world started to go away from the year 1999. Time is constantly moving backwards. To Arcanist, yesterday is tomorrow. And with every new storm, the years regress quickly. Basically, imagine King Crimson, but erasing time backwards. Okay, I don't know why the hell I thought King Crimson would be an easy to understand explanation. Basically it's an anime time skip, but backwards. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if in one of the future story chapters we would be chilling in 323 BC with the homeboy Alexander the Great. I mean, granted we wouldn't be chilling with him for long, but you get the idea. Time will continue to regress, which means the main goal of the story is to get back to that year, 1999, and find out what made the world reverse. Now, on our little fun reverse time expedition, there are two major factions to take note of. The Foundation, which the main character, Vertin, is a part of. It is filled with Arcanists, people who are basically wizards. And thinking on it, yeah, that's right. You play as a British person who wields magic. Yeah, the game's basically Yuri Harry Potter with time travel holding an Uno reverse card. Regardless, the Foundation helps Arcanists and wishes to have them coexist with humans. As in the past, or I suppose more so in the future, you can see that a fair bit of people were racist against Arcanists. So the Foundation wants to stop that whole racism thing from happening. They wish for humans and Arcanists to be equals. Now, the other faction is Manus Vindictae. To put it simply, they racist. They are Arcanists who hate humans and anyone who isn't a full-blooded Arcanist. They are basically the opposite to the Foundation. The Foundation wants humans and Arcanists to be in peace, while Manus wants humans to get yeeted out of existence. So that's the general laydown. Arcanists are trying to find out why time is reversing and to stop that shit from happening. And in the meantime, Manus is trying to Fortnite montage humans whilst the Foundation is cosplaying the world government from One Piece. That is the simplest synopsis I can give. And the reason I said Arcanists are the ones trying to stop the storm is that they have access to shelters that can save them from the storm. Both the Foundation and Manus have shelters that can save people from the storm. But due to Manus pulling an Uncle Ruckus, they only let Arcanists in, or sometimes humans if they become monsters for them, basically pawns. Whilst the Foundation lets people in, they can't exactly fit everyone in the bunkers they got. So Arcanists are usually given priority. Because the thing is, the storm will farm everyone. If you're caught in it, kiss that victory royale goodbye, you're dead. But two things, Arcanists can perceive how time is being reversed, so they are the ones trying to figure out why the storm happened. And the other is that there is one person who doesn't get clapped by it, Vertin, the protagonist. For whatever ungodly reason, that shit just don't affect her at all. Which is why she goes around to recruit Arcanists so they can join the Foundation, as it's better they have them as opposed to Manus. But that is the best and simplest synopsis I can give, which fuck is a difficult giving because the game does not do a good job of introducing any of this to you. Deadass, for the first 2 chapters I was looking like a straight guy in a gay bar, confused but a little interested. So much is thrown at you and you don't have time to really digest it. The pace feels like you're reading the Bible after doing 3 lines. So a lot of concepts that are important felt glossed over, and due to the confusion, some of the other aspects of the early chapters, like making you care about the characters, fall short, as I was more focused on the world, the how and why. So some very emotional beats in the first 2 chapters fell short for me, due to the fast pace and the fact that I wasn't too familiar or attached with the world. However, upon looking back at those first 2 chapters, I'd say they were good. The story in them was nice, but that's because I'm now more familiar with the story. However, chapter 3 and beyond is where the story really hit it for me. In particular, chapter 3, that shit was nice. Now, I wouldn't say the current story chapters are masterpieces. You won't get Steins Gate levels in just these 4 chapters, which isn't a big deal because it's only 4 chapters. Stories take time to be good, and Gacha Game stories take centuries to be good. Punishing Grey Raven, Arknights, Genshin, Fate, Gacha Game stories are destined to be ass at the beginning. Dog, this shit is basically a curse. Which is why the story is really interesting to me, as the release chapters have already made me invested in the world and some characters. Yeah, I'm sorry, dog. You gonna have to do a lot to make me give a fuck about a sentient apple. And another couple of interesting things to note is the game is primarily English voice acted, which is weird as hell to say as the default is usually Japanese. But in this we got English voices, French, Russian, Italian, homie. They did a tour across Europe for some of the voice actors. And one may expect the English voices to be lackluster, but homie, they are far from it. The voice acting is amazing for like 90% of the characters. Deadass, some voice actors had an uphill battle. Like, listen to this shit.
You can't turn away from those biting, tearing, and bleeding.
It sounds good, doesn't it? Some pretty good mic quality too. Now, let's listen into the apple.
When the side of the earth turns away from the sun, people call it night.
Dog, homie's voice is nice with it, but they gave him the same mic I had when I started making YouTube videos. Which is to say, he had $30 earphones with a mic taped onto it. Bro, they gave him that fucking McDonald's mic. And some voices are just hoed over like that. Druvis is another example. Good voice actress, but the mic makes it sound like she's in a state where she's gradually moving closer to it and then further away from it. However, in the story, due to the various different accents in the game, they actually have characters speak their native language. Like having Lilia speak Russian, and yes, I'm still salty I didn't get her out of the gacha. Though the amount of differing voices we have really drives home the setting of the game, that being Europe. Because there would be a huge dissonance if the setting was Europe, but for whatever reason all the characters spoke in pure perfect Japanese. It wouldn't be fitting, so the English voice cast does a really damn good job. But in addition to the fully voice acted story, the sprites are also live 2D. It's not just 2 character sprites on screen and with every line the sprites change from happy to sad to angry, etc. You get to see some movement while hearing the story, which makes it very easy to digest. And cutscenes are seamlessly put into the gameplay. At one moment you could be seeing characters moving and the next thing you know it's a moving 2D cutscene which looks really well done. Honestly, I'ma keep it 100. I need to see more shit like this. This fully beats watching 2 sprites deadpan stare into my soul as I eye their crotches trying to read the dialogue box. So all in all, the early chapters of the story are poorly paced. But chapter 3 and near the end of chapter 2 really pick it up, with the voice acting being, for the most part, really well done. But that's enough talk about the story, let's move on to the gameplay. So the game is turn-based, you select your moves, clap the enemies, then they hit you with the equivalent of a gust of wind. You get the ability to merge together cards of the same rarity, thus giving them more power and sometimes new bonuses. Like how Soneto's attack skill can disarm enemies if it's 2 stars or more, and you can move around cards to merge them. You also got skills for a free merge and the ability to shuffle your cards. That's generally the basics of the gameplay, and yes, it's very simple. The combat is very easy to understand and get into. All you really gotta do is debuff the enemies, buff yourself, then hit them. Heal when you're weak. Which might sound boring at first, but it's surprisingly enjoyable to play. Like, yes, at its bare bones, its basic combat mechanics, there's nothing that is too challenging. I went through the game's story without ever finding a fight difficult, and after finishing the story, I found out how broken... by Cornbloom? Be Cornblume? Fuck it, I'ma just call her Bifrost. But she's a 5-star, 1 less star than the highest rarity, and is honestly broken as shit. I didn't use her for the main storyline, but everything after that got the Bifrost to beat down. But even with the gameplay not being challenging, it's still nice to play, as to me, keeping up buffs and thinking what's best to combine where is fun. That, mixed in with the beautiful animations and style, makes the gameplay a good time. Like, I'd play Elden Ring if I want to have a close fight and be really challenged by the boss I fought. And I'd play Arknights if I want to pre-plan a stage and really micromanage my way to winning. To me, Reverse 1999 is comfort food. I put it on, go into the battles, combine shit, delete the enemies with Bifrost, and continue writing my 40-page yaoi fanfic as the fight goes on. Now, I'm not saying the game was brain dead easy and it will forever stay this way. I'm saying in my experience, after I built a good team, the story wasn't too challenging. The 3rd and 4th chapter bosses excluded. And since I was still at the beginning of the game, the answer to any big challenge was simply level up, how most games are. So in the game's current state, there is not much challenging content, but in the future, I would bet there is. The core mechanics are simple, however, as is pretty evident in Chapter 4's boss, if the enemy is made to have complicated mechanics or if some mechanics are added on to a fight, then this shit ain't no fucking Mickey Mouse adventure anymore. You ain't sitting around thinking about Yuri as you play this game. Nah, you're in the arena and your opponent is whatever the fuck that is. Most live service games are inherently easy at the beginning of their lifespan. I mean shit, when Arknights dropped, their first event boss was a fucking magma slug. And oh, what's one of the bosses that released for it a couple months back? A fucking steampunk Gundam. So whilst the game is currently easy, I don't think that's a negative. Difficulty will come with time and with players having leveled up different teams. And as a side note, it takes a long ass time to get characters to the max insight. But thankfully there's an auto clear you could set up 4 stages, so you can do 4 stages in the time it takes for 1 auto run. Don't know why they didn't just make a sweep system though. However, for gameplay, what matters most is that it's fun and the core mechanics work, which I can easily say is the case for Reverse 1999. And I mean shit, I'ma keep it 100 with you, if the gameplay was the exact same experience as slapping 2 rocks together, I'd probably still enjoy it due solely to the style. So as I said, the game primarily takes place in the mythical land of Britain or Europe or, I don't know, maybe France. They're all fictional regardless. And you could see the style take heavy influence from that. Like, bro, look at this shit, that's British as fuck. And it's not just the character designs which hold this style. Like shit, yo, look at the atlas in this game. You could see the old-timey vibe in it, mixed in with the weirdness of how the storm changes the world. Or how on the resource stages you could see a record player spinning in the back. The game has got some style to it and ain't afraid to cook some shit. Yo, lest we even talk about how nice these ultimate animations are. Or how the music perfectly fits the theme, to where just hearing it on its own can give you a general idea of what to expect from the story. But the main evidence of the style is the character designs. Now, the cast. Gachas are known to have a strong and memorable main cast. Either the different races that make up Rhodes Island, the human-based machines of Punishing Grey Raven, or the legendary heroic spirits of Fate, all gender bent into the thirstiest motherfuckers imaginable. But the cast of this game is, a little different. You got the girl who speaks like a lobotomized alien, these 2 little shits taken straight from The Shining, a wannabe Kaneki Ken cosplayer, and, yes, how could I forget, the human form of the donkey from Shrek. And in case you think that's whack, don't worry, a dog was recently added as a playable character. His name is Pickles, get used to it. Truly, there's a line between passion for what you want to make and simply not giving a fuck, and I quite honestly do not know where the developers fall on that line. I am just interested to see what they make next. Cause deadass, where the fuck else can you live out your fantasies as playing as a sentient pair of gauntlets using a sword to unleash a prototype judgment cut? Exactly, nowhere else. Unless we even talk about the goth girl who can speak to dead people exposing Vertin for what she has in the attic. And on the topic of the protagonist, let's talk about him. So, surprisingly, Vertin doesn't have amnesia. Granted, they're an orphan, so I don't think having a backstory is better than the usual case of amnesia. But over the course of the story, you can see how she actually has a character. Most of the time, the protagonist is made to be a self-insert. There's nothing wrong with that, but I feel in many cases it causes the protagonist to not have a personality, due to them being made in a way where people can be like, bro, he me, for real, 100%. But even with the current short length of the story, I'm already interested in Vertin as a protagonist. She does some fucking ballsy stuff, and I'm really interested to see where her arc goes in the future. It's hard to talk about it more due to spoilers, but long story short, Vertin cooks. Deadass, I really want to roll her as a unit to use in combat. And on that note, let's talk about the gacha. The pity system is, after 60 pulls, if you got no 6 stars for each pull, after that your rate will be increased by 2.5% until you hit 70 pulls. From there, a 6 star is guaranteed. If it's not the rate up unit, then your next pull will be the rate up unit. You can see the pull rates on screen. Players can get about 35 pulls monthly, and here's the date list of the banners in CN. New banners last 3 weeks, so you can pity once every 2 banners, approximately. When it comes to duplicates, I'd say they are generally unimportant. Some characters benefit a fair bit from them, but with how the game is now, you can ignore them and be fine. So I'd say the game is free to play friendly, especially as it won't destroy you for not having a full 6-star team. Namely because Bifrost is better than half the 6 stars in the game, and Soneto is the given unit, and she's also really damn good as well. And one interesting thing to note is, in the past, before the global version came out, the game used to have an equipment gacha. And as is the case with most equipment gachas, players fucking hated that shit. So Bluepock did something unexpected. They listened to criticism and got rid of it. Yeah, that shit's rare to hear. And it's things like that added on to the passion I could see in the game, which makes me believe the creators actually give a damn about it, which is always a good thing to hear, lest we look at how Blizzard's doing. So to recap, the story is rushed at the beginning, but the later chapters are interesting and have me invested onto where the story will go. And I can't wait to see more of how lively the story cutscenes are. The current gameplay is basic yet fun. Hopefully in the future the difficulty will be increased. The style of Reverse 1999 is on point, no flaws there. And the free-to-play friendly nature mixed in with how the developers took in criticism and improved from it shows that the game isn't looking to bleed you of all your money. Which is why I rate Reverse 1999 an 8 out of 10. It's close to being an 8.5, but I feel like I need to see the gameplay get more difficult or to receive more story that has me deeply invested. This is a very promising start for the game, but I'd like to see more before rating it as one of the best in its genre. As to me, an 8 out of 10 is a great game anyone who's interested in that genre should play, whilst a 9 out of 10 is one of the best games in it. And a 10 out of 10 isn't a perfect game, but it's the pinnacle of its genre, the gold standard other games should look to achieve. And with time, I expect Reverse 1999 to get there. Granted, they got a shortcut to the 10 out of 10 category if they give us more Yuri scenes. The ball's in your court, Bluepock, or, well, maybe not ball. The scissors are in your court, Bluepock, what you gonna do?